When you look at Toronto from the outside, it probably looks like this: a clean, advanced city. A place where immigrants rebuild their lives. A place where if you study hard, work hard, follow the rules, your kids will live better than you did. People picture glass condos and polite neighbors, streetcars and coffee shops, a stable job with benefits, a system that works. And I'm not going to lie, for a while, that story felt real. I have a full-time job. I do translations as a side gig to fill the gaps. I wasn't rich, but I could breathe. Then, nothing dramatic happened. No eviction notice taped to my door. No car crash. No viral tragedy. It was quieter than that. The city didn't break me in one punch. It just tightened. Month by month, the room gets smaller. And now I'm here, at the point where I can feel my life entering its final countdown. By my own math, I have about 60 days before the last bit of room on my line of credit disappears. And this is the part that actually scares me. If I don't say this out loud, no one will ever know why I stopped showing up for work. Because in Toronto, you can be falling apart and still look fully employed. You can be drowning and still type "I'm good" in the group chat. You can be desperate and still pack your kids' lunch, still stand at school pickup, still look like a normal dad to everyone else. There is a viral term on the Chinese internet called the kill line. It comes from gaming, when a boss can be killed in a single hit. Now it's used to describe how many Americans are just one accident or one illness away from financial collapse. Canada isn't the same. We have universal health care. But in some ways, this feels worse. Because this kind of death is slow. You can feel the air being pulled out of the room, inch by inch, until one day you realize you have been suffocating the whole time. So hey, before we go any further, there's something you should know. My voice has been altered, not for drama, not for effect, because some immigrant circles are much smaller than people think, and I'm not ready to be exposed yet. Not because I'm lying, but because I'm still trying to survive. I'm 36, I'm an immigrant, I'm a single dad with 2 kids. My oldest is old enough to notice when I pretend everything is okay. My youngest still believes Dad will always figure it out. And I need you to understand something. I'm not speaking from theory. I'm inside this. I used to live this weird double life, a daytime job, and during nighttime I translate. Invoices, contracts, manuals, boring work, but honest work. And yes, I used to work until midnight, sometimes later. Sometimes I would pull an all-nighter, then go to my day job like a zombie. But here's the real difference. Back then, even when I was exhausted, I feel like my life was moving forward. Because effort still turned into progress, and even if I have bills to pay, I know I have the cash flow coming in. You grind, you deliver, you get paid. You build a reputation, you get repeat customers, and you slowly climb. When AI arrived, the first shift was MTPE, Machine Translation Post-Editing. And almost overnight, per word rates dropped by about 25%. Don't get me wrong, MTPE existed long before tools like ChatGPT become a mainstream. But AI didn't just speed things up, it changed the game instantly. At first, there was still work. But once NTP equality stabilized, something strange happened. Volume didn't slowly decline, it collapsed. Projects dried up, and the market entered this quiet vacuum where nothing was officially wrong, but nothing was coming in either. I try to adapt. I look for new clients. I lower my rates for the old ones. I joined AI data platforms such as Data Annotation, Outlier, Aligner, and Core. In December, I even spent a full month on the Aether projects at Outlier. I was eventually removed, despite having what they called a decent score of 1.91. None of it changed anything. Not because I suddenly become bad at it, not because my English got worse, not because I stopped trying. The ground just moved. Now, the most common feeling in my life isn't I'm tired. It's panicking and waiting. Sitting in front of a screen, refreshing platforms, watching jobs get posted and disappear, writing proposals that feel less like pitching and more like begging politely, competing against rates that don't make sense for human life. And the worst part isn't the money drop. The worst part is the psychological shift. I went from, I can push through this. If I pick up a few more orders, I can cover the bills, to, I have to pull more money from my line of credit this month, and it hurts every time I do. And once you lose that, your brain starts doing something dangerous. It stops planning forward. It starts counting down. The thesis: it's not passion, it's fear. Here's the first truth nobody likes to say out loud. The reason people keep running in this city isn't ambition, it's fear. Fear of rent, fear of one missed bill turning into a chain reaction, fear of your kids watching you fail in slow motion, fear of becoming one of those cautionary immigrant story people use as a warning. Toronto doesn't keep you moving with inspiration. It keeps you moving with quiet threats. I once saw an Uber Eats ad that captured this perfectly. A young man walks out of a downtown office tower at the end of his day work. And no celebration, no pause. He opens an app, hops on a bike, and starts delivering food. That's not hustle culture, that's just survival. That image isn't an exception. It's a mirror of daily life for a lot of Torontonians. So in this video, I'm going to do what most people don't do. I'm going to explain why life in Toronto, for working class immigrants especially, can feel like a machine that slowly squeezes you. I boil it down to 7 reasons, not facts I copy from business books. These are hypotheses from someone inside the system. A guy on the TTC at 7 a.m. carrying coffee that tastes like panic, trying to look normal. Think of this video as an underground manual for Toronto. The side you don't see in newcomers' brochures or cute condos TikToks. Let me walk you through it. Reason 1. Toronto isn't expensive, it's unstable. People say Toronto is expensive like it's luxury expensive, like you pay more because it's nicer. No, Toronto is expensive the way a rig game is expensive, because the rules can shift while you're still playing. Rent is the obvious example. Not just the number, the uncertainty. A few years ago, Ontario changed the rules. Many rental units that were first occupied after November 15, 2018 are exempt from rent control guidelines, which means for those units, there's no legal cap tied to the annual guideline. So two people can live the same lifestyle, do the same job, even rent the same size condo, and one has predictable increases while the other can get hit with the jump that changed their entire year. That's what people outside Toronto don't understand. It's not just high rent, it's that you can't stabilize your life around it. And yes, you will see average floating around, numbers like in the 2000s range, depending on what you're measuring and which data you use. Even the city publishes average market rents for planning and housing programs. But the average misses the point, because instability is the real tax. Someone will always comment, "Actually, my cousin paid less." Exactly, that's the trap. In Toronto, timing is an invisible privilege. If you sign at the right moment, you're okay. If you sign during a spike, or those that are not subject to the rent control guidelines, you're not bad with money. You're just standing on different ground. Food is another one. You walk into a grocery store for a few things and somehow leave with a bill that feels like a personal insult. Canada's Food Price Report 2026 projected the average family of 4 could spend up to about $995 more on food in 2026. Gold kiwis are a perfect example, something that I've noticed recently. I remember a box at Costco cost about $9.99 just 3 years ago. Today, the same box is $17.99. And the same thing happened with the sticks. Same store, same cut, completely different reality. Again, you can debate the exact number, but the feeling is consistent. You stop planning your life in years. You plan in paychecks. And when you plan in paychecks, you don't build dreams. You build emergency exits. Let me explain what that does to your brain. When life gets unstable, your world shrinks. You stop thinking about, where do I want to be in 5 years? You start thinking, if I get sick this month, what breaks first? That's how you end up living in a constant low-grade emergency, even when everything looks normal on the outside. Reason 2. Immigration upgrade is a myth. Most people quietly downgrade. From the outside, immigrant stories are told like movie arcs. Doctors become doctors again. Engineer become manager. Hard work gets rewarded. The reality? A lot of immigrants arrive and discover their past life is treated like a rumor, not because they're lying, but because the system doesn't know how to use them. So you start seeing doctors driving Uber at night, engineers delivering food between shifts, people who once signed off on bridges, hospitals, or million-dollar decisions now watching surge price and customer ratings. You see experienced financial analysts, former advisors, people who used to build models and manage risk, standing behind a bank counter as branch tellers, being told to gain Canadian experience by counting cash. People call this downward mobility, but that phrase is too clean, too academic, because this isn't just about income. Downgrading erases your identity. Back home, you were someone. Here, you become available. Available for shift, available for gig work, available to accept less because you should be grateful. And I know what people will say. Well, that's the price of coming here. Maybe, but let's be honest. That price is hidden in the marketing. No one tells you the real cost isn't just money. It's status, it's language, it's confidence. is the feeling of being competent inside your own body. And the most brutal part, your kids didn't know who you used to be. They only know the exhausted version. So you don't just lose a career, you lose the witness. And once you lose the witness, your whole life starts feeling like it never counted. Reason 3. AI didn't help. It hollowed out skilled work and replaced it with waiting. This is the part people outside the translation world don't understand. When they hear AI translation, they imagine a tool, like a calculator. Something that will help you go faster. But what actually happened was closer to an economic earthquake, because translation wasn't just a skill, it was a bridge. It was how I turned my brand into rent. And yes, I used to grind. I used to translate after my kids went to bed, sometimes until 2 a.m., sometimes all night. And it was brutal, but at least it had a reward loop. Work, deliver, invoice, paid, progress. Now my life has a different loop. Refresh, apply, wait, ghosted, refresh again. And if you have never experienced your skill becoming a commodity overnight, let me translate the emotion for you. It feels like waking up and discovering your degree has turned into a coupon. Not useless, just discounted. And the worst part is, you can't even tell who you're competing against. Sometimes it's a human willing to charge less than minimum wage. Sometimes it's a bot. Sometimes it's someone using AI to write perfect proposals. Sometimes it's a client deciding that they will just run it through AI and accept the mistakes. So you lose twice. You lose the job and you lose faith in effort. And when effort stops creating progress, you get this dangerous mental state, learned helplessness. That's how you end up sitting in front of a screen, not even angry, just numb. And that numbness spills into everything. Parenting, health, confidence, sleep. Because your brain quietly asks, if I can trade effort for progress, what am I supposed to trade? Translation is one of the first to be impacted, but I believe AI will eventually impact every industry. Reason 4. Toronto isn't polite. It's a waiting room where everyone is judging quietly. Toronto is famous for being polite in the way a hospital waiting room is polite. No one screams, but everyone is watching. And when you're an immigrant, you feel that watching as pressure. You feel it in job interview where your accent becomes a silent checkbox. You feel it when you don't know the unwritten rules. You feel it when people politely correct you, but the correction has a sting. There's also another layer. Toronto is a city where everyone is performing stability. Instagram Toronto is brunch, condo views, and motivational captions. Real Toronto is people quietly calculating how many more months they can keep pretending they're okay. And when people are under pressure, they look for someone to blame. That's when the city gets uglier. Not because one group is the problem, because stress makes people cruel. You start seeing culture wars, neighborhood resentment, online rage, people taking random public incident and turning them into proof that someone doesn't belong. And if you're a working class immigrant watching that, you get a double fear. Fear of poverty and fear of becoming a target. So you do what everyone does. You stay quiet. You keep smiling at school pickup. You keep saying we're good to your kids. And you start living two lives. The one you perform and the one you survive. Reason 5. My company doesn't run, it bloats. I need to talk about something people don't say out loud because it sounds like complaining, but it's real. At my company, there's an inside joke. We call some executives executive bench warmers, or sometimes big helmet privates. Here's what that means. There are people who are C-suite somewhere else, CEO, CTO, big titles. They come here and they are VPs. Still huge titles, still huge salary, but almost no actual team. No real or minimal operational responsibility, just layers. So what happens? The people at the top look powerful on paper, but the actual work is carried by a shrinking middle. And here's the irony that crushes you slowly. The people with the most pressure have the least authority. The people with the most authority have least at stake. So the system feels heavy, but ineffective. Top-heavy, slow, risk-averse, and when cost needs to be cut, it's never the bench warmers. It's people like us. That's when you realize something dark. A lot of modern corporate life isn't designed to produce value. It's designed to protect careers. And when an economy starts protecting careers more than families, you get a city full of exhausted adults who will secretly feel like they are trapped in a theater. A theater where everyone has to pretend this is normal. Reason 6. I'm still driving the same car from university. That's not nostalgia, that's fear. Here is a detail that explains more than any statistic. I'm still driving the same car I had in my first year of university. 18 years. Same car, same dents, same noises you learn to ignore. People ask, why don't you upgrade? I usually joke it away. The honest answer is harder to say. It's fear. Not fear of debt, but fear of commitment. A new car isn't just transportation. It's a promise that I'll still be okay 5 years from now. And I never felt allowed to make that promise, so I didn't change the car. Year after year, during the years when people say, if you can afford it, you should. And here's the part that hurts to admit. That fear turned out to be right. Not upgrading, not taking on that extra monthly payment, ended up being one of the best financial decisions of my life. Because if I had, I'll be in a much deeper hole than I am in now. So the car becomes a symbol of the city. Time didn't move forward. Life didn't collapse, it just froze. And freezing is dangerous because it feels safe. You can survive frozen for a long time. You can look fine for a long time, until one day you realize you have been holding your breath for years. Reason 7. Just drive Uber Eats. This is the comment I know will show up. You should just drive Uber Eats. At least it's something. Do you know how many nights I have thought about that? I think about it constantly. I want to do it. I want the extra money so badly it's embarrassing. Sometimes after the kids fall asleep, I will stand near the door and just think about it. Imagine being the guy who can still hustle. Imagine turning stress into gas money and then into groceries. But here's the reality people don't see. My kids can't stay home alone. I'm their only parent here. I don't have family nearby, and I can't just bring my parents from Asia and drop them into this situation like it's nothing. There's no backup system. And there is another thing that I haven't said out loud yet. I still don't have the courage to tell my parents what my life actually looks like right now. Not because they ever guilt-trip me for sending me abroad. They never did. But I know how proud they are. proud that I graduated from a top university, proud that I made it, that I landed, settled, and built a life here. I don't know how to tell them that the version of me that they are proud of is barely holding together, that I'm exhausted in ways sleep can fix, that my mind, my body, my spirits are all running on fumes. So when people say, just hustle more, what they're really saying is, who watches your kid is your problem. And that's the wall. Not laziness, not lack of will, a hard physical limit. This is why single parents in Toronto don't just struggle financially, they struggle structurally. Because the system assumes you have a second adult somewhere, and if you don't, you're playing life on hard mode with no extra lives. The big picture, you're not broken, you're just living without shock absorbers. If I put all 7 reasons together, this is the picture I see. Toronto is not crushing people because they didn't try. It's crushing people because the system slowly removed shock absorbers. No margin, no time, no backup. And the data kind of matches the feeling. When a country has record levels of food insecurity, and reports suggest around 25.5% of people in the 10 provinces lived in food insecure households in 2024. That's not a bad budgeting story, that's a system story. When the job market softens and unemployment rises, even people who still have jobs start feeling fear because the replacement options disappear. Canada's unemployment rate was reported at 6.8% in December 2025. And when people are under fear, they get smaller. They become less generous, less patient, more suspicious. That's how a city becomes tense without ever being loud. So what do? I don't have a perfect ending. I want to buy more time. I know the question everyone will ask me next is, so what do you do now? And here's the honest answer. I don't have a clean solution. I don't have a miracle client waiting. I don't have a family money to fall back on. And I definitely don't have a success montage. What I do have is one clear goal. I need more time, not to win, not to reinvent myself overnight, just enough time to breathe, think, and not collapse in front of my kids. So everything I'm considering now is about buying runway, even if it's risky, even if it's uncomfortable. Here are my options. Option 1, leaving my job to unlock time I already earned. The first thing I have to seriously consider is quitting. Not because I want to, but because once I leave, the retirement money locked inside the company becomes accessible. That alone could buy me close to 2 more years. 2 years of not free-falling, 2 years of room to pivot. But this option is dangerous, because once I stepped out, there's no guarantee I'll find another job anytime soon. It's a trade. Immediate oxygen in exchange for long-term uncertainty. And that's the kind of decision you only consider when standing still is no longer safe. Option 2, turning that time into a skill pivot. The second thing I'm doing is using every hour that isn't earning money to build something that might. Video editing, Python, not because it's trendy, because it's adjacent to where work is actually moving. People say if you study Python seriously, you can reach a usable level in about 30 days. I don't know if that's optimistic, but I do know this. If I can pass even one AI platform assessment after 30 days, that's a new door that didn't exist before. So instead of waiting in panic, I'm converting waiting into preparation. Even if it leads nowhere, it's still better than staring at a screen refreshing platforms. Option 3. Keep looking, but stop punishing myself for surviving. The third decision is smaller, but it matters more than it sounds. From today on, any money I earn, no matter how small, I allow myself to keep 5% for something I actually enjoy. Not investing, not saving, not being responsible. 5% to remind myself I'm still a person. Because when every dollar is treated like emergency oxygen, life turned into a holding pattern, and I can't raise my kids from inside a bunker. None of these are perfect plans. They are not meant to be. They are moves, they are attempts. They are ways of refusing the option where I do nothing and slowly disappear. I'm not trying to be brave. I'm trying to stay present long enough for something to change. And one more thing. I can't plan on this alone. There is one more decision I've made, and it's not about money or skills. It's about perspective. Here's the truth. My view is incomplete. I'm one person in one city carrying one version of this pressure. And if I pretend my experience is universal, I will miss the part that actually matters. So instead of letting this story end with my own struggle, I want to open it up. I want the comments to become something bigger than my collapse. I want them to become a map. If you're an immigrant in Toronto, tell me, what surprised you the most after you arrived? What kept you going when things got quiet and dark? If you were born here and you're still struggling, tell me, what part of this city is slowly wearing you down that nobody talks about? And if you're older, if you survived your 30s while carrying a family, what would you tell your 36-year-old self? Because I promise you on this, someone watching this video right now is one bill away from panic, and your story, even one paragraph, one sentence, might be the first thing that tells them they are not broken and that they are not alone. Toronto was supposed to be the city that gave me a chance to prove myself. Maybe it still can, but not as a dream, as a negotiation, one honest day at a time. And if you're watching this and you feel that quiet countdown too, you're not broken. You're just living without shock absorbers. And the first step isn't fixing everything overnight. The first step is telling the truth out loud. If you're an immigrant in Toronto, I need your help. Not encouragement, not you'll be fine. I need information. If you have been here longer than me and you have made it through, tell me how. What did you actually do when things got tight? What did you cut? What did you keep? What decision brought you time instead of pride? If you change careers, tell me what worked and what didn't. If you stayed, tell me what belief kept you from giving up when the math stopped making sense. What mistakes should someone like me not make next? One tactic, one rule, one sentence you live by might be the thing that helps someone breathe for another week. That includes me.